Niccolò Machiavelli, a Florentine thinker of the Renaissance, shook the world with ideas that still sting today. He claimed that the ruthless often triumph, while the purely good fall behind. His intent was not to glorify cruelty, but to expose why kindness alone fails. For him, effectiveness, not purity, was the true key to survival and influence. Machiavelli noticed that ruthless people hold an advantage because they act without hesitation. They lie when convenient, twist facts, threaten when cornered, and charm when useful. They understand how to seduce, distract, or intimidate as needed. By shedding moral constraints, they seize opportunities the virtuous cannot. This gave them power and longevity. The virtuous, however, are bound by principles. They believe noble goals must be pursued through noble methods. If they want fairness, they argue with reason. If they desire kindness, they treat even enemies gently. These ideals are inspiring but fragile. Machiavelli saw them collapse again and again against ruthless opposition. Looking at Florence and beyond, he observed how good rulers and merchants were betrayed, exiled, or crushed. Their loyalty to virtue left them unprepared for deceit. Meanwhile, the cunning endured because they defended themselves with strategy. For Machiavelli, this proved that morality without resilience guarantees weaknesses and eventual defeat. This realization gave birth to his most famous work, The Prince. Often misread as a tyrant's guide, it was instead a manual for survival. Machiavelli wanted to help well-intentioned leaders endure in a hostile world. His call was not be cruel, but stop being naive. To win, one must learn from rivals. He taught that a leader must be both lion and fox, show kindness when possible but be ready to intimidate when necessary, inspire trust but also understand deception. The key was not to abandon virtue, but to pair it with strategy. Only then could noble ideals withstand relentless opposition. Machiavelli understood why this advice was resisted. Western thought had been shaped by Christianity, by the image of Jesus as the ultimate model of humility and forgiveness. His story suggested that gentleness would lead to triumph. But Machiavelli, ever pragmatic, highlighted a detail many ignore. Jesus' earthly life ended in defeat. From a practical standpoint, Jesus was mocked, betrayed, and executed. His moral greatness did not shield him from cruelty. For Machiavelli, this revealed a painful truth: goodness, unprotected, is powerless. If noble people truly want to change the world, they must arm their ideals with the strength to survive hostility. His warning was sharp. People are remembered for results, not intentions. History forgets the well-meaning who never acted effectively. Leaders who dream of fairness but fail to defend it vanish from memory. Those who combined vision with resilience endured. Effectiveness, he insisted, was the foundation of lasting influence. This was not cynicism but realism. He challenged the comforting illusion that goodness naturally wins. In truth, the merciless often outlast the merciful. Machiavelli urged people to face this reality with open eyes. Failure comes not from being kind, but from refusing to prepare against the ruthless who never hesitate. He warned against confusing weakness with virtue, allowing injustice to win because one refuses to resist it effectively is not noble, it is negligence. To him, real virtue requires strength. Justice, kindness, and wisdom cannot survive if left unguarded. They must be defended with discipline, strategy, and resilience. Enemies, he said, are not only threats but teachers. Their survival proves what works. To ignore them is to remain defenseless. Machiavelli urged us to study the cunning, not to admire cruelty, but to learn its methods. By adapting their strategies, good people could finally protect what they cherish. This remains true in our world today. In politics, gentle leaders are pushed aside. In business, ethical entrepreneurs are swallowed by aggressive rivals. In life, people who never set boundaries are exploited. The dynamics Machiavelli described have not changed. Ideals still collapse without protection. Strength remains the only shield. Machiavelli's call was clear. Remain as good as possible, but never at the cost of effectiveness. Inspire kindness when you can, but intimidate if you must. Persuade when reason works, but deceive if survival demands it. He wanted noble values to endure, and endurance requires a balance of compassion and cunning. His words disturb because they force us to abandon excuses. We often say we fail because we are too good. Machiavelli would disagree. We fail because we ignore the tools of survival. We fail because we cling to illusions. And in doing so, we hand victory to those willing to use every weapon available. He believed that true tragedy was not cruelty's triumph, but goodness's defeat. Too many leaders, thinkers, and dreamers fell, not because they lacked vision, but because they refused to defend it with strength. Their downfall was not inevitable, was preventable. Machiavelli wrote to ensure future generations avoided this same mistake. This is why The Prince remains one of history's most influential books. It strips away illusions and replaces them with tools. It tells us plainly that kindness without power dies quickly, but kindness armed with resilience can reshape the world. The book is less about tyranny than about survival and effectiveness. The harshness of Machiavelli's lesson is also its hope. It means good people are not doomed. They simply need to adapt. They can learn from rivals, adopt resilience, and protect their ideals. They can finally compete not by abandoning virtue, but by arming it with the strength it desperately needs. This balance between virtue and strategy is what makes his thought timeless. He showed that being good and being strong are not opposites, they are partners. To protect justice, one must defend it. To preserve kindness, one must shield it. To spread wisdom, one must ensure it survives the noise of cruelty. So ask yourself, do you fail because you are too kind, or because you have not yet learned how to be effective? If you value kindness, defend it fiercely. If you believe in justice, protect it with strategy. If you cherish wisdom, shield it with resilience. This was Machiavelli's lasting challenge. His words sting because they demand action. They reveal that intentions, no matter how noble, mean nothing without results. They remind us that ideals, if left fragile, will be destroyed. And they insist that the greatest betrayal of virtue is refusing to give it the strength to endure. This is why Machiavelli's voice still echoes across centuries. He forces us to confront reality instead of hiding in comforting myths. He calls us to stop romanticizing weakness and start preparing for conflict. And he challenges us to transform our noble dreams into lasting realities through strategy, resilience, and courage. The world will not reward you for purity. It will test your strength. If you want fairness, prepare for resistance. If you want compassion, shield it. If you want justice, protect it. Dreams are fragile until defended. Machiavelli's wisdom teaches us that only by arming virtue can we ensure its survival. This is not an invitation to cruelty. It is a demand for balance. Remain compassionate, but do not be naive. Be just, but also resilient. Care deeply, but protect fiercely. For Machiavelli, only through this union of goodness and strength could people hope to build something that lasts. The harsh truth is that the ruthless often outlasts the merciful. But Machiavelli's lesson means we do not have to surrender. We can learn, adapt, and endure. And by doing so, we can stop being erased by history. Not by becoming cruel, but by ensuring our noble values are strong enough to survive. This is why he unsettles us. He exposes the lies we tell ourselves about failure. He demands that we admit our weakness is not virtue, but negligence. And he calls us to act differently. His message is clear. If you care about your ideals, prove it by giving them the strength to endure. Machiavelli's challenge is not easy, but it is empowering. It means you can be both good and effective. You can dream and also defend. You can embody compassion while standing firm against cruelty. You do not need to abandon virtue, you need to protect it. That was the essence of his warning. The greatest tragedy, he believed, was wasted potential. People who could have changed the world, but did not because they refused to adapt. Leaders who cared, but lacked discipline. Thinkers who dreamed, but never acted with resilience. For Machiavelli, this was preventably. Only they had chosen effectiveness alongside virtue. The enduring lesson of the prince is that ideals are fragile unless guarded. Power is not inherently evil. It is simply the ability to act effectively. Without it, goodness collapses. With it, goodness survives. Machiavelli's wisdom invites us to embrace this balance, to stop fearing power, and to start wielding it responsibly. So, when you reflect on your own life, ask, are your failures proof of purity or proof of unpreparedness? Do you truly lose because you are too kind, or because you refuse to defend kindness? Machiavelli's answer is firm. Stop blaming goodness, start blaming weakness, and then resolve to change. His warning matters because the dynamics of power have not changed. The ruthless still exploit the gentle. The cunning still outlast the naive. And the well-intentioned still fail when they refuse to prepare. The world may evolve, but the battlefield remains the same. And Machiavelli's call remains just as urgent. What he offered was not despair, but clarity. He showed us that noble people can succeed, but only if they arm themselves. He stripped away illusions, revealing that weakness is not purity, but vulnerability. And he gave us the tools to ensure that ideals could survive, even in the harshest environments. This clarity is why his words endure. They remind us that intentions do not change, history actions do. That goodness is not preserved by passivity, but by defense. That kindness is not protected by hope, but by strategy. For Machiavelli, noble visions deserved nothing less than the strength to endure. His challenge is timeless. If you care about justice, equip it with power. If you care about kindness, give it resilience. If you care about wisdom, protect it fiercely. Otherwise, your values will be erased by those who do not hesitate to act with strength, regardless of morality. Machiavelli wanted us to stop hiding behind illusions. He wanted us to see that failure was not inevitable. It was a choice born of weakness, hesitation, and naivety. He believed we could do better. That by pairing virtue with strategy, we could finally defend the values we treasure most. This is why his ideas remain both disturbing and liberating. They strip away comfort, but replace it with power. They remove illusions but offer survival. They unsettle us, but they also prepare us. His call is not to abandon goodness, but to give it the armor it needs to survive. The true betrayal of virtue, in his eyes, is leaving it fragile. If you cherish justice, but do not defend it, you betray it. If you value kindness, but let it be destroyed, you abandon it. If you honor wisdom, but never protect it, you silence it. Weakness is not virtue, is failure. By learning from rivals, we can stop this cycle. By adopting resilience, we can preserve kindness. By arming fairness, we can ensure justice survives. By preparing with strategy, we can give wisdom a voice. This is the empowerment hidden in Machiavelli's warning. Noble values can win, but only if defended. This message cuts deep because it removes excuses. It asks us to stop blaming our failures on purity and start admitting they come from unpreparedness. It tells us to stop waiting for the world to reward us for being good. And it urges us to give goodness the strength to shape reality. Machiavelli's brilliance was to unite hope with realism. He did not tell us to abandon ideals, he told us to protect them. He did not glorify cruelty, he exposed its effectiveness. His writing endures because it reminds us that noble dreams can survive, but only when paired with discipline, courage, and strength. The lesson is harsh but vital. The world does not reward intentions, only outcomes. Compassion without defense is exploited. Fairness without resilience is ignored. Dreams without preparation collapse. But when ideals are armed with strength, they can survive cruelty, outlast deception, and reshape the very systems built by the ruthless. This is why The Prince continues to be read across centuries. It is not a book about becoming a tyrant, but about protecting yourself from tyranny. It equips readers with the harsh truths of power, ensuring that noble visions are not erased but defended. Its power lies in its refusal to flatter. The true power of Machiavelli's message is that it redefines virtue. Virtue is not fragility, it is resilience. It is not naivety. It is not weakness. It is effectiveness. For him, only by embracing this definition could noble people finally compete with and outlast the ruthless forces that oppose them. So, will you allow your values to remain unguarded, or will you give them the protection they need? Will you hide behind excuses, or will you prepare for reality? Machiavelli's question remains as sharp today as it was centuries ago. Do you truly care about your ideals enough to defend them? If the answer is yes, then arm them. Learn from rivals. Study strategies. Build resilience. Protect kindness with strength, fairness with strategy, and wisdom with discipline. This does not corrupt virtue, it ensures it survives. And in doing so, you turn fragile dreams into realities that last. This balance of goodness and power is not betrayal, is the only way forward. It allows noble people to stop being victims of cruelty and start being defenders of justice. It transforms compassion from weakness into strength. It gives fairness the durability it needs to stand against relentless opposition. Machiavelli's legacy endures because it forces us to face the truth. It refuses to let us escape into myths. It pushes us to act with courage. And it reminds us that noble visions matter, but only if they endure. Effectiveness is not the enemy of virtue, it is its greatest ally. So, when you face challenges, remember, you do not need to abandon kindness to be strong. You do not need to sacrifice justice to be resilient. You do not need to silence wisdom to be strategic. You can be both good and effective if you have the courage to embrace Machiavelli's warning. The uncomfortable truth is that weakness destroys goodness faster than cruelty. By refusing to defend ideals, we betray them. By shielding them with resilience, we honor them. This was Machiavelli's gift, not despair, but empowerment. A call to stop failing by default and start protecting what truly matters. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe kindness can survive without force? Subscribe for more explorations on philosophy, psychology, and power. And remember, ideals are only as strong as the strategies that defend them. Will you give your values the strength they deserve?